Hi guys, it's Misty from the Book Rat, and it's time for the first video review of the series Fairy Tale Fortnight. You guys voted on this one. I'm going to be telling you my thoughts on Beauty by Nancy Ohlin. The full synopsis as well as links to the book can be found below, but for now I'm going to get straight into what I thought of this very slim book, which if you watch my rewind videos you'll know was a bit of a mixed bag. Actually, I shouldn't even say mixed bag because I was just pretty much wholly disappointed with this. It is a little mixed because I did see potential and I saw things that I liked and were interesting, but they frustrated me more than anything because they were never fully realized. So, I'm gonna try to keep this as brief and minimally ranty as I can. I was disappointed in this book, and here are the reasons why. First of all, as I said, it is a very slim novel. It's not even 200 pages, and that's expanded. It was originally released under the name Nancy Farmer and was shorter then. It was re-released under the name Nancy Ohlin and is a little bit longer, so I'm assuming it was reworked. Having not read the first version of it, I couldn't tell you what was changed or whether those changes were for the better, but I will say I think it probably could use some more reworking and some more expansion. A lot more than its 180 pages or whatever it is. For the type of story that Olyn set out to tell, I don't think you could possibly do it justice in the short amount of time that she told it. It really needs some development. It could be, it has the potential to be, a very interesting sort of philosophical and psychological exploration of sort of beauty culture and self-perception and the relationships between women and between mothers and daughters, which would make for such a fascinating Snow White retelling. It had glimmers of that. It had some really interesting choices in how the mother-daughter relationship was presented and how their relationships and with beauty and self-perception and their understanding and manipulation of it and just sort of whole being in regards to beauty and self-perception. Those elements were there and could have been really fascinating. If those things had been explored, if it had been this very sort of dark and twisty and very in-your-head psychological thing, I think it would have been a knockout. It would have been really, really stellar, interesting retelling. Instead, what we get is this sort of very juvenile, very childlike storytelling that much of it feels like build-up to a bigger story, and then nothing ever really comes of it. It often comes off a little cheesy, and a lot of the choices, the writing choices, the plot choices, just seemed really strange, and I don't really know how to explain that more without really giving you all kinds of spoilers for the book and going into things that would probably be really boring, but it just always seemed a little out of left field and not in a good way. Not like it was just trying to be unique, but like it just was a first draft, or it was a sort of roughed out story and then she was going to go back in and fill it with those layers that it was begging for and that you could see the potential for that just never showed up. Sorry for any weird transitions, my camera died again, so we've switched over to phone. It often feels very abrupt, kind of like my camera cutting off. I never really buy the characters' motivations, either the Queen or the Snow White characters, or their actions based on those motivations. I don't get why the Queen is so obsessed with beauty, because as the story goes on, you see that she wasn't always obsessed with beauty, and that she actually has a very kind, very loving heart. So how she goes from that kind, loving character into someone who is so wholly obsessed with beauty that she wants to murder her own daughter and, like, all of the kingdom's pretty women. Not hookers, but you know. How she gets from here to there, how that transition occurs, you're not given anything as the reader. There's no reasoning, there's no push behind it. You really have no idea what turns her into this obsessive, which is a huge flaw to me, and I don't know how, as a reader, you can be expected to go with it, suspend your disbelief, or connect to the characters or feel for the characters if there's no basis, there's no foundation for the things that they do. And it's not just the Queen or her daughter, who also I have huge questions about. That sort of extends throughout. So all of the female characters, it's like there's a switch for obsession with beauty to the exclusion of all else, and it's very easy to flip it, which I think is a huge disservice to the world, to the characters, and to women in an exploration of beauty culture in general. You can make really strong, very fascinating claims and explorations, I think, about beauty and women in relation to beauty and that sort of internalized perfection expectation. I think you could really explore that in very fascinating ways. But you have to give it some kind of basis. You have to make something happen, some solid choice that explains how this sort of came to be, with the exclusion of everything else. And I don't really feel that any of that was ever explored. It just felt shallow, which can be interesting in a book about beauty and about shallowness, but the writing shouldn't feel shallow. The plotting shouldn't feel shallow. Those things need to be developed to highlight. Unless, I guess, the claim is that it's sort of like an art installation, writing, a really shallow book as an exploration of shallowness. I don't know. But I just kept waiting for the impact. I kept waiting for it to come together and have that pow that you're expecting from the sort of seeds that are planted for what could be a really fascinating story. I kept waiting for those to bloom, and they just didn't for me. Which brings me to the other thing that really bothered me, which was that it felt like a huge chunk of the story was just cut out. I already said it felt like some build-up and like maybe we were going to get there, and it needed that development to get there. You have all of that in the world building and in the character building that, if used appropriately and lengthened, could have been a really interesting build-up to the story, which would then explore the characters and the choices and everything more fully. And then it would have been really powerful and interesting. But instead, you go from that build-up into a very, very quick end, and it feels like the entire middle was just dropped out of the book, and it makes everything that was already unbelievable even more so, which was just so disappointing, and even more so when there were these little instances where you could see what the story could have been, where you could see the sort of psychology and philosophy and uniqueness of the story that just didn't ever really have a chance to shine. And I hate doing reviews like these where I really don't have anything positive to say. It was very quick. I didn't put it down. I did not finish it, which does get at some points in its favor. But I can't remember the last time that I was as disappointed or as befuddled, as puzzled and bewildered by a book, by its characters, by its ending, by its setup, by everything, by all of the decisions that were made. I know that there are those out there that love this, and maybe you'll be one of them. So don't just rely on what I'm saying. Give it a try. Tell me if you disagree. Tell me what you loved about it. But for me, it was just sadly a fail. And that is what I thought of Beauty by Nancy Ohlin, also known as Beauty by Nancy Farmer, which is a different cover. There is plenty more going on in Fairy Tale Fortnight, so if you would like to check out more or enter to win the giveaways, read the reviews and the guest posts and all of that good stuff, hop over to the link which is left below. If you would like more Fairy Tale Fortnight videos, the playlist will be right here. But that is all for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching and happy reading. I'm definitely shopping around for a new camera, so if you guys have suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'm over this.